Any plans for this evening? Perhaps a game night?
Game over, man. It's game over.
Shut up. Play the game. Play it from your heart.
26 years ago, we started playing a little game. Now, we're all gonna sit down. We're gonna finish it.
And may the odds be ever in your favor.
And here we go.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a special holiday episode of Dice Camera Action, a mashup podcast about board games and movies. I'm Jason Tripp, and Matt, I really wish I could go back to how Christmas used to be before watching today's movie.
Hello, I'm Matt Cousineau, and I just found out recently the truth about Santa Claus. I'm devastated.
I'm here for you, man. I'm here for you.
Thanks. So as always, we're going to get in, before we get into today's feature review, which I guess we can kind of tease that a little bit. We're going to be reviewing the Dice Throne. I guess we'll be reviewing the whole Dice Throne system, but we specifically played the Santa versus Krampus version tonight. We made that sacrifice for our listeners, so you folks are welcome.
No, the sacrifice was watching this film, so you don't have to. We're pairing this Dice Throne Santa. We're just going to call it the DTU, the Dice Throne universe, I think. And we're pairing it with your recommendation, not mine, the movie Krampus, which slipped through my fingers until now.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. I must have been really naughty this year for you to make me watch that movie. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself.
This is going to be the most not controversial, but like butting heads episode, I think.
And here we are. We're all supposed to be in the Christmas spirit, all joyful and nice, and we're going to do some sparring. But I guess before we get to the main reviews, we'll do some shout-outs.
So as always, before we get into our feature reviews, we're going to get into a little bit of what we've been up to and some shout-outs to some games and or movies that we've been watching. So Jason, you want to start us out?
Yeah, so this is our holiday sort of Christmas episode. So there might be a new game or two under the Christmas tree waiting to be opened, but not quite yet. So I've been just kind of revisiting some that are been a hit with my family, and had a chance to introduce to some friends. Was out of town, as I often am, for a basketball weekend with my son, and never leave home without a few games in the trunk. So I packed a few because we were crashing out with a couple friends and sharing a room, and thought we'd play some games with them. And one game they really enjoyed that always seems to be a hit on the table is just a classic sort of puzzly game that's really aesthetically pleasing, is Sagrada, which I'm sure many of our listeners will be familiar with. But
it's kind of an old classic.
Old classic. It's got a great table presence. Basically what it is, you're building sort of a stained glass window. Everybody has their own little player board, and basically you take a little a 5x5 grid of colors and numbers, and you slide that into your player mat, and you choose which one, different difficulty levels at the beginning of the game. And then when every player's done that, you basically have a bag filled with these tiny little colored D6 dice. And in a 4-player game, you'll grab 9 of those dice. And there's 5 different colors. They're all numbered 1 through 6 or D6. You roll all 9 of those on the table, and then you do some dice drafting. So the person who rolls the dice will choose one of those, the color and number that they want, and they will place it somewhere on the perimeter of their player board, their 5x5 player board. And the rules stipulate that, some of those squares just have a white color. They can be any number and any color. Some of them are just straight up yellow or blue, and they have to be that particular color die. And some other spots have a particular number that they have to have that particular number. And the rules
some have a color and a number.
Some have a color and a number on the harder levels. Yes. So then the rules stipulate that you can never have almost like a Sudoku style. You can't have two numbers adjacent, the same number or the same color adjacent. So as you're placing them, you got to kind of bear that in mind and kind of map things out. And also, you've got secret bonus card. Everybody's got a secret color. At the end of the game, you're going to get the face value of all the dice on your board of that color. And there's 3 sort of shared objectives that are open for each player. Sometimes you got to get like the whole row of the 5x5 grid has to be all different colors for bonus points, or same colors diagonal, each one's worth a point, or as for example. So you're not only trying to get your secret goal, but you're looking at what other players want. You're trying to inhibit them as well by taking the dice they might want. So the drafting goes like a snake draft. If you're ever in like a hockey pool or a football pool, same idea. First player takes the die, second player, third player, last player then gets 2 picks. Then it comes back around to the starting player again, and that's 1 round. And the game goes, I believe it's 10 rounds, and that continues. Starting player just moves in a clockwise fashion. At the end of the game, you just total it up, and it gets really tight near the end of the game because there's only limited space left on your player board. You do have some these cool little gemstones that you can cash in. There's a couple, there's 3 sort of bonuses that are not bonuses, but special ability cards that are face up. At a cost, you can cash in one of your little gemstones that you have, and depending on how difficult your starting mat is that you choose to slide into your board, the more difficult, the more of those gemstones you get at your disposal. So in theory, you can kind of maneuver a little more and try and finagle something to kind of finish your board. But there are instances where you can't play. You're stuck with a color or number that doesn't work, so you have to leave that spot blank. But it's really satisfying when you can kind of complete your board and you can lock it in and get some bonus points. So it's called Sagrada. I have never introduced it to someone who didn't enjoy the game. My family enjoys it. Friends enjoy it. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are familiar with it, but I feel like a little aesthetically pleasing, sort of not too much of a brain burner, a little bit thinky, aesthetically pleasing, good table presence. I recommend that one, and been revisiting it lately.
It's a good one. I played a while back, I want to say a year ago or so, with a friend, and then recently I was at a small convention and with Charlie, with my 7-year-old, and that was one of the games that we just pulled out and he and I played, and it was great for even his age. I had to explain a little bit about some of the cards because he doesn't read in English yet, but other than that, like he was off to the races as soon as he knew what the 3 kind of goals were. And I think there's little graphics to show what the goals are as well. So that
there's not a lot of reading involved for sure, except for the special cards a little bit.
Yeah,
but
it gives you a little bit of the Azul kind of vibe, where same kind of feeling, different mechanics, different way that it works, obviously, but it gives you the same kind of feeling. You're doing kind of an abstract puzzle with limitations and restrictions that involves drafting and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the director, whose name is escaping me right now, but he features on
the designer.
The designer, director. I'm getting into stop talking movies already. The designer of the game, he features in a documentary. I think we mentioned in a previous episode called The Hobby, and so he's one of the designers that talks about the process of designing games. Something that you would know a little more about than me, Matt, being a designer yourself. But so that's Sagrada. That's what I've been playing a little bit lately until I see what new ones are under the Christmas tree. What about you? What have you been playing lately?
For me, the game I wanted to shout out is Rebel Princess. It's a game that I spotted at Gen Con, and at the time it was not on my radar. I saw like a big shelf of it, and this is when I had picked up Sears Catalog. If you recall my story about having run into the designer of that at Gen Con.
Right.
So again, go back and listen to the Gen Con episode if you want to hear about my story about running into the designer of Sears Catalog. It's a fun one. But so I saw Rebel Princess, but it wasn't on my radar for whatever reason. I just hadn't seen it or whatever, and then I got distracted and ended up doing other things. But I saw it there, and then a few months later, leading us up to kind of more recently now, it ended up on my radar. Don't quite remember how. I don't know if it was a recommendation from a friend or a podcast, but ended up picking it up, and I've played, I want to say 3-4 games at this point, and it's a really neat, fun trick-taking game. So basically the idea is that everybody plays a princess, but we're all strong, independent women, and we don't need no man. So basically, the idea is that we're throwing this big party, and we're having a great time. And each of the suits, one is like the fairy godmothers or the queens or something like that. One suit is the pets. One suit is, it's just different like people that you might find in a castle. And one of the suits is the princes. And the princes you want to kind of keep out of the party. So basically what happens is that you're playing cards out, and it's the must follow trick taking. And then there's the princes is their own suit. And what you're trying to do is not win any tricks with princes in them. Because if you win a trick and there's any princes in them, they're worth proposals at the end of the game.
Right.
So every prince that you win is worth a proposal. You keep score. You do 5 rounds. Whoever has the least amount of proposals at the end of the game wins. But there's a few little hooks there, or kind of different rules as you go along. There's a stack of princess cards. And everybody gets dealt 2 princess cards at the beginning of the game, and you choose one to keep, and you have an asymmetric ability that you're going to use for that game. Then there's also, I forget what the name of the cards are, but I don't know, just for the sake of the podcast, let's call them party cards. The stack of party cards, you will have 5, there's a stack of like 10 or 15 of them, and you're going to shuffle and choose 5 of them, and you're going to put them face down, and then at the beginning of the first round, you're going to flip over the first one, and that will add a rule to that round to say that, pets are also worth a proposal this round, or whatever, right? So it just gives you different rules that you have to
evolving
follow.
And shifting as it goes.
Exactly. Yeah. And then so you have to follow that rule along, over the course of that round. And then the other kind of hook is that within the pet suit, the green suit that is the pet, so there's like dogs and cats and whatever. There's a frog in there. Well, as you know in fairy tales, the frog is actually a prince in disguise.
Yeah.
So the frog is actually worth 5 proposals. So you want to avoid getting the frog at all costs. Yeah, exactly. But there's kind of if you're familiar with trick-taking games, there's a concept called shooting the moon, right? And it comes from a very specific trick-taking game, but it kind of, I guess that term is...
Hearts, yeah.
Yeah, that term has now come, been...
It's inspired other spin-off games, yeah.
Been used in a lot of other trick takers. So basically, if you get all the princes, including the frog... you actually get minus 10 proposals. So that ends up
high
being
risk,
really
high
fun.
reward.
Yeah, that ends up being really fun because what ends up happening, from what I've noticed, sometimes you just get a hand where you're going to try to do it, but oftentimes you get in a situation where people are just feeding you the princes, and it just happens where you're like, oh man, I'm getting all these princes, and you're like, wait a minute.
Well, I might as well just go from all at this point, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And that actually happened with John, our mutual friend, in our last game night. And there was one, we didn't even realize it. We were down to, I think, the last or the second last trick. And then we start looking through.
You got to be observant
and realize that we had fed John all the tricks or all the princes. And so and I believe he ended up winning that game. The art is really charming. It's kind of minimalistic, but really charming. And the princesses are all the classic princesses. You've got Pocahontas and Snow White and Little Mermaid, and some of them use the actual names. I guess they're part of the public domain, and others use kind of an adjacent name. But it's really well done. It's a fun trick-taking game, and it really like throws you for a loop. Like, there's plenty of trick-taking games where you kind of have to rewire your brain about how you're going to play.
Yep.
Well, this does this every round,
right?
So you really have to adapt, and then you're also pairing that with your asymmetric ability and when you're going to use that. There's a lot of things to think about as you're playing, and lots of kind of laugh out loud funny moments when people get stuck with things or whatever the case is. So definitely a good one, and a cheap little trick taking game that
it's widely available now in stores, I believe.
For sure, yeah. So Rebel Princess, check it out.
Yeah, I've been fascinated. So I grew up playing like cards, trick-taking games, like Hearts and Euchre, Canasta, Pinochle, whatever you name it. And it's been neat to see kind of a renaissance of trick-taking games in the hobby right now. In the last few years, I've noticed.
I'm loving it.
I've noticed more and more trick-taking games. I'm looking at your shelf here, and you've got a handful. And I I got to pick your brain because I need more trick-taking games in my collection. So this is definitely a good one. So
yeah, 3 years ago, maybe not even that long, a year and a half, 2 years ago.
It just started really exploding. I
guess I'm not even sure which game I came across, but I came across a trick-taking game at that point, and that's when I realized that it had penetrated the hobby, and that there was
not
more
just a
than
52 card deck,
exactly,
right?
Yeah. So,
but inspired by like hearts in this case, right?
And I grew up loving euchre. Like every spare that I had in high school, we were sitting playing euchre. Mm-hmm. So it's been really fun to kind of explore trick taking.
Mm-hmm. There's a whole world to be discovered. So if you're into trick taking games, this is a good one. Rebel Princess, good shout out. So that's a little bit about what we've been up to, what we've been playing. Of course, we've been watching some movies and TV shows as well. And I'd like to shout out an animated film that's getting a lot of buzz. That what I'm hearing is the front runner possibly to win Best Animated Feature of the Year. And maybe in a future episode before we get into Oscar season, we'll have a little more of a deep dive Oscar conversation. But it's called The Wild Robot. And that same weekend I was out of town playing Sagrada with my son and some friends. We had some time to go to the theaters. So we saw two movies. We went to see, I got to shout this out too. We went to see the 10th anniversary of Interstellar.
So jealous
a movie
of this.
We both adore and have discussed. It's back on the IMAX. Apparently it just broke the record for highest revenue for a re-released film in IMAX. Packed theater. We were in like the second row there, and the seats just reclined enough, so we just got the full IMAX experience. Felt like we were
get a little queasy
in the spaceship. No, not too bad. That docking scene is pretty intense, but good. So that was glorious. My son loves that film, but he'd never seen it in the theater. We just watched it in our home theater with my kids, and they love it. So for him to experience that was pretty neat as well. But then the following day we had some time. This is a movie I want to talk about a little more at length. It's called The Wild Robot. And it was interesting watching both of those movies. They're different genre. One's sort of an epic sci-fi space travel film. This smaller scale animated film takes place in our time or maybe the near future. And like the title suggests, it's a robot is the protagonist. This robot that's supposed to be delivered somewhere from this mass marketing company. There's AI robots. They just perform tasks for individuals. We're not sure why, but it gets sort of stranded on this deserted island, an island that's just populated with animals. And it wakes up, and it turns itself on, and it goes through its programming motions and talks to the animals. Would you like me to perform a task? And of course, they don't understand any of its languages, so it's kind of confused. The animals feel threatened by this robot, so it spends the first portion of the movie just observing, learning the language of the indigenous animals to this island. And I won't spoil much of the movie, but through a circumstance, it ends up sort of caring for and adopting this sort of runt gosling. And the progression is it's really heartwarming, and the animation in this film is phenomenal. It's one of the best animated films I've seen as far as the craft and the animation. It's really beautiful. So if you have a chance to catch this on the big screen, I highly recommend it. But to see this robot kind of go beyond its programming just to perform tasks and start thinking with its heart rather than with its head. So it very much, both Interstellar at its core and this movie, very much some themes of love and relational love. It's all the moms out there. This is really a story about motherhood, this Wild Robot tale. And both my son and I enjoyed it a lot. And, we had a little something in our eye at the end of the film, I think, there as well. So a little dusty in there. Very fantastic film. The animation's solid. The story is great. The plot is very compelling, and the voice actors are phenomenal through.
So I was going to ask about that. You mentioned voice actors. Are these like animals that speak English? Like, do we hear the animals speak, or is it?
We don't at first, but once the robot is able to observe and kind of does the universal translation thing, then it kicks in, and from there we hear each animal talking.
Okay, so we hear the animals talking in English through the lens of the robot. having learned
how to communicate with them. Yes.
So they're not literally speaking in English, but we perceive it that way.
We perceive it that way because they're speaking. At first, they're just chirping and doing what we would hear in nature, right? But then the robot is able to sort of clue in and observe and use her programming, whatever, universal translation skills. It's, this robot can kind of do everything. So it's a bit far-fetched in that sense, but it works.
It's a kid's movie,
yeah. It is, but it's got some real adult themes as well.
Right.
So you've got voice actors like Kit Connor, Pedro Pascal plays a key role, Bill Nighy, Stephanie Sue, remember her from Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Oh yeah, she's great.
Yeah. Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker himself, Ving Rhames. I mean, it's just a stacked cast in this. It's pretty phenomenal. But the robot is Lupita Nyong'o, so she's having a heck of a year between this and A Quiet Place Day One. So she's having a pretty good year. She does a really good job sort of voicing this robot, because it's tough to voice a robot. I think kind of like David Johnson in Alien Romulus, same idea, right? To kind of act like a robot, but to become more human throughout the film, she nails it. So yeah, top to bottom, this is a pretty solid film. One recommend both to adults and children. It's not overly scary, so if your kids are 7, 8 or older, I would recommend this one for the whole family.
Might be a good one over the holidays. Digital for a little while, and I've been hesitating. But now maybe I'll pull the trigger. We'll have some time with the kids over the holidays. Yeah, it'd be a good one, definitely over the holidays. If you're looking for something to watch, highly recommend it, and make sure mom's there with you, because this is definitely an homage to mom. It would make a good Mother's Day film as well. So that's The Wild Robot. What about you, Matt? What have you been watching lately? You mentioned great animation, and this is not what I wanted to talk about, or not what I have listed on our show notes here, but I'd be remiss. I just have to. It's so hot right now, and I just finished watching it. It is a series on Netflix. I don't know if you've had a chance to check out Arcane. I'm sure you've heard some buzz.
I've heard some buzz. I haven't had a chance to watch it. I've been working through the Dune Prophecy show. That's what
you know what? I watched the first episode, and I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's okay. It's hard to stack up to Denis Villeneuve, but
for sure, it's fun to revisit a world sometimes, right?
Once the series is done, maybe we can compare notes on it. Yeah. So Arcane.
Arcane. I won't spend too much time on it because I really want to talk about this other movie, and I don't want to go too long. But you mentioned great animation, and like Arcane has to be the most beautiful, most incredibly animated thing I have ever seen.
Really?
It is unbelievably beautiful. And it's not just that. The story is great. The characters are incredible. There's so much nuance. It's definitely violent, and it's not for little kids, but the story is great, and it's called Arcane League of Legends, and it's based off of the lore of League of Legends.
Right.
But from what I understand, the lore is not too substantial. In fact, this is now probably the lore is this show.
So you don't need to have much backstory or knowledge about
I knew absolutely zero about League of Legends. Like, literally, I have not seen a frame of anything League of Legends.
And you were fine jumping in.
Yeah. I'm aware of its existence. I know what it is. I know it's a MOBA and that kind of thing. But yeah, I had zero knowledge of the lore of the characters or anything like that. It's one of these things where you can jump in, watch it, and enjoy it. If you happen to be a player of the game, you'll see a bunch of little Easter eggs. And,
of course.
Oh, I've seen that weapon before, or that character, and it adds an extra layer of like.
Sure. Well, that's like that's kind of like Dune, right? We were just talking about Dune, same idea, right? If you've never read the source material, you'll still love the films, but if you know it, you can kind of pick up more details, right? Adds a little bit to it, yeah. Cool. So
Arcane League of Legends, it is like every action sequence and set piece in that show is like a gorgeous, like, I'm having a hard time even describing. It's just like almost like a music video. It just goes into these like sequences of slow motion and plays with time and space, and the colors are so vivid. And like prior to this, I probably would have said that the Spider-Man Spider-Verse movies were
they're top notch as well, incredibly
well animated. Yeah. I prefer League of Legends.
Okay,
and that's not casting shade on the Spider-Verse stuff. It's incredible.
Sure.
But so it's kind of like
similar style of animation.
In terms of the like what the show is, it's about these two sisters that kind of end up on two different sides of a war, and so obviously there's conflict there, but there's also they don't necessarily just want to kill each other. So there's some really interesting nuances and dynamic in that relationship. But it's kind of a steampunk universe, so it kind of
nice.
feels old-timey, but it has some magic and technology.
Sure.
And some really, really great stuff there. Highly, highly, highly recommend. I mean, check out a trailer, and if it seems even a little bit interesting to you, check it out. It's for me, it's a 10 out of 10 masterpiece.
Wow.
And the reports are that it cost them $250 million for the 2 seasons. So for that reason, it hasn't been canceled, but they announced that season 2 was going to be the final season.
Yeah.
So they made it with that in mind.
So masterpiece, like you like that M word, like it actually is a masterpiece.
It actually is a masterpiece. Right. Yeah, and you guys will know why we're saying that.
Don't throw on that word too liberally. But I'm intrigued.
I typically don't. Yeah.
Well, that's 2 top-notch animated films and shows to look out for then.
Yeah. So the one I wanted to talk about, and you had mentioned that you'd seen this already.
Yeah, I saw it in theater.
I thought we could have a quick discussion about it.
For sure.
But, so I watched Heretic recently, just a couple nights ago. So it stars. Let me bring it up here for you.
It stars Hugh Grant. That's all you need to know. It's arguably his best performance ever.
Yeah, he really goes hard. And so it stars Hugh Grant, and basically these 2 young, late teens, early 20s girls that are Mormon.
Yes.
End up coming to his home. I guess they had some sort of meeting set up where they would show up and discuss.
Well, how it works in the Mormon church, to my understanding, is when you're involved, it's sort of a hierarchy, and you've got certain objectives and goals to achieve, and part of that is doing your mission service. Going
as a missionary,
you're basically all you're missionaries, and you're going to recruit people or share the message as they understand it, and part of that is going door to door. In this case, I guess it sounds like they met him, and then they handed out some literature to him, and he said he'd be interested in a follow-up visit.
Come by the house kind of thing.
Come by the house, and that's how the movie kind of begins, right? Yeah.
So I mean, the premise reads as follows: 2 young missionaries are forced to prove their faith when they knock on the wrong door and are greeted by a diabolical Mr. Reed, played by Hugh Grant, becoming ensnared in his deadly game of cat and mouse. So he invites him in, and right away there's kind of a vibe that things are probably not.
Well, it's a remote area. There's a big gate, and they take their bicycle, they lock their bike, and then they walk up to the door, and it's winter and a storm's brewing. So it's like, okay, where's this going? Right?
Yeah, and then just to kind of set it up, and won't go into too much into the details, but just to set it up, basically these 2 girls say we can't come in if
there's not a female present.
It's just part of our rules.
Yeah,
we're just straight up not allowed.
He
says, well, let me go get my wife. Come on in and let me grab your coats. I'll go get my wife.
She's baking a pie in the back room. Yeah.
That's right. So they go in, and he grabs their coats. I'll be right back. I'll go get my wife. And he comes back without the wife, and he says, "Oh, she's just making a pie. She'll be right out." And so they end up sitting on the couch there in the foyer.
You smell it?
And you can smell.
They get the whiff of blueberry pie. Yeah.
And so they have a kind of a really interesting conversation, and you could tell just by the way that he's speaking, the way that he's asking some of his questions, some of the statements he's making. There's something at work here. He's got alternate motives here,
but very knowledgeable. He seems very interested. He seems to have a lot of religious knowledge. You have a lot of books. You like to read. Oh, Mr. Reed. They make a joke about his name and his love of reading.
So without getting too much more into the plot, basically they end up stuck in there, and we won't go into what happens.
It's a game of cat and mouse, basically.
But it's very much a game of cat and mouse with their mouths, because it's very much a war of intellects.
Yeah, for the first 2/3 of the movie, it's very talky. It's not gruesome or gory for the first half of the movie. It's more of a suspense battle of wits, right? Sort of trying to make them... He's trying to basically get them to defend their beliefs and to take a long, hard look at what they believe. Because sometimes, and I live in this world, we've had some of these conversations, right? You can just swallow what you've been giving uncritically. So he's trying to help them have some critical thinking about their beliefs or disbelief, and to see what they actually believe and what he believes. So it's interesting, and then it takes some twists and turns from there, and we won't spoil anything. But,
but I will say that the dialogue is so incredibly well written.
It's well written.
I was leaning in and listening to every
And there's some
word.
good board game bits in this movie.
There is too. That's right. Yeah. We won't go into details on that, but
No,
definitely there's.
I thought of you when I was watching.
There's
Like,
a comparison
oh,
made with the religions of the world. Compared to different versions of Monopoly.
Yep.
And done in a really kind of a whip smart fashion.
Yeah.
Just like really fascinating. So yeah, there's a board game tie-in, so that's perfect.
There you go.
But definitely check out Heretic. Hugh Grant puts forward this incredible performances.
Yeah.
The girls are awesome too.
Yeah.
The dialogue is probably, if there was one thing that I had to pull out of this movie to say like this is what made it for me, it's just that script and that game of cat and mouse, as you mentioned. Defending their religion, discussing their beliefs and whys and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like really fascinating conversations.
Yeah. So this is directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, who did the Quiet Place films.
There you go.
So they wanted to do the opposite. I heard an interview with him. I think it's on the Big Picture podcast. I'll just shout out that podcast there.
Good one.
And Sean Fennessy, the host, he interviewed these directors, and they've been friends since like middle school.
Oh,
and they've been like doing directing together and talking about movies their whole lives, which is kind of neat. But Quiet Place, they have a movie that's all but quiet, and then they want to do something that was the opposite, that was very talky, but still with the same sort of thrill and suspense, but in a very more intellectual talky movie. It's the opposite of A Quiet Place. So it's fascinating to see those films as conversation partners, sort of two sides of the same coin. So,
well, since we're shouting out podcasts, my favorite movie podcast is the Filmcast.
Yeah, I listen to that one regularly as well. Yeah.
Jeff Kanata, one of the hosts, went to a screening of Heretic where they had, through the studio or whatever, after the screening, they had kind of beamed in a Q&A with Hugh Grant.
Nice.
And I thought that this next piece of information was really cool. So Hugh Grant was talking about how this type of role is what he would have loved his career to be in the first place.
Right.
I'm paraphrasing here.
He kind of got typecast.
But there was he obviously early in his career ended up being this like rom-com heartthrob because was it Love Actually?
Yep.
That was his breakout role. Mm-hmm. Kind of just threw him in that direction. And from the way that Jeff was explaining it, he wasn't upset about that. It threw him into stardom, and he had a great career. But he's very, very happy to be able to now, as an elder statesman, to be able to dive into these more interesting, juicy kind of roles where he can be more nefarious and more nuanced. So.
Yeah, it's a perfect role for him at this stage of
He's
his career.
great.
I want to see him do more stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the young two actors, I'll just end with this, her name's Sophie Thatcher. I just saw literally today, it's interesting you bring this movie up, I saw that basically she went on record saying like, I had this major crush on Hugh Grant back in the day, and now I'm in a movie where he like tortures me and stuff. Yeah, it's a dream come true. So, that's Heretic. It's a good one. I liked it a lot. Won't be in my top 10 of the year list or anything, but it was a good time.
Agreed.
So that's a little bit about what we've been up to, what we've been playing, what we've been watching, and as always, let us know, send us an email, or give us some feedback on what you've been doing, what you've been playing, what you've been watching. We're always looking for feedback and ideas for future episodes, but it's time now on this holiday special episode to get into our holiday Christmas themed game / movie. As always, we're going to start with our board game of the week. And so we are looking at something from what we're calling the DTU, the Dice Throne universe, looking at a game that basically came out, I think, a couple of years ago, 2022. This was released. And if you're familiar with Dice Throne, it's been around for, I don't know, probably a decade plus. Initially, but they add these sort of spin-off characters that can be added to the game. And so this one is both a standalone. You can play it as a 2-player standalone, which is what we did, Matt, but you can also add this. It's cross-compatible if you're a collector of the Dice Throne game, and maybe this one has slipped through your fingers.
For example, you just brought over a little box that probably $25 Canadian or so. So what is what I've seen.
Yeah.
And it comes with 2 characters, so you could right out of the box. You take a character, I take a character, and we can go to town.
Yeah. The game itself is 2 to 6 players, but if you only have this box, it's only good for 2 players. But it can be added with other characters that can be played.
Characters,
you can mix and match them up. They got like season 1, season 2, and they're constantly adding more characters. But this was their holiday themed one that came out a couple years ago, and it's Santa versus Krampus. Should we talk about Krampus now? Or should we wait?
Like the lore of Krampus? Yeah, sure. Why not?
We might as well talk about the lore of
Krampus,
because maybe some of you aren't familiar with Krampus. What's Krampus all about? We'll get into that when we get into the movie too. But the Krampus is basically a legend that originated going all the way back, I believe, to the 12th century in Germany. This is German origin, and it's rooted in what they call pre-Christian Alpine traditions. Krampus was originally, think of it like the bad cop, the counterpart to Saint Nicholas, Santa Claus, right? So you got the ultimate good cop, bad cop, and obviously Santa rewards good kids with gifts. Well, Krampus does the exact opposite. This is pretty wild and messed up, but allegedly December 5th, that's the night that Krampus and St. Nicholas would arrive together to visit children. St. Nicholas leaves gifts for good children, while Krampus punishes the bad with birch rods, or sometimes eats and takes them to the underworld. Literally beats them with a stick, puts them in his bag, and takes them to the underworld. Sweet dreams, little one. So the evening of December 5th traditionally is known as Krampusnacht or Krampus Night. And so that's a little bit about the tradition there. It's been made popular in contemporary board games and movies, as we're going to discuss today. So that's the character, one of 2 characters. Of course, Santa needs no introduction there, rooted in the historical St. Nicholas. So on the box, you've got Santa on one side, and you've got this beastly looking green monster, Krampus, on the other. And so we dove into this one, Matt, and tried it out. And why don't we have a little bit of a conversation about it? Do you want me to give a little synopsis about the game and a little bit about the information on the game? We'll do that first, then we can talk about what we enjoyed or didn't enjoy about this one. Dice Throne, Santa versus Krampus. This one released in 2022. Roxley is the main publisher for Dice Throne games. This one was designed by Gavin Brown, Nate Chatelier, and Manny Tremblay, who also does the artwork. Like all Dice Throne games, this one, especially 1v1, plays in 20 to 40 minutes. And that was our experience. The weight on Board Game Geek for this is 2 out of 5. So this is in that sort of light medium range. Yeah. And it's rated a solid 8 rating on BGG, 1782 overall. So if you're not familiar with Dice Throne, it's interesting. We were talking about trick-taking games being inspired by classic games. Well, Dice Throne is pretty much inspired by Yahtzee. Mm-hmm. If you've played Yahtzee, you got dice, you chuck them, you try and get certain numbers or a run of numbers or a full house or what have you. Dice Throne is similar, except you've got a character as asymmetrical, so each character around the table, and again, it plays in this particular box, this version, only 2 players, but you can go up to 6 players if you have enough characters, enough versions of Dice Throne. And basically you take turns acquiring cards. So at the start of this game, I played Santa, you played Krampus. You have a deck of cards for each character. You have a player mat in front of you. You have some really cool chunky dice that you get to chuck in this game with different symbols and numbers, D6 dice. And on your turn, you will do a number of things. You'll start, the exception being the first turn, the first player doesn't get to do this, but every other turn you'll take I think it's a combat point.
Right, which is your currency.
Basically, that's your currency. So you've got a dial, and you start with 2 of those, and at the start of every turn, you bump that up, and you grab a card in hand. So you start with 4 cards, plus you grab one. So you've got a hand of 5 on your first turn, and you can use some of those cards. You can either sell them to get more combat points, more currency, or you can use them to help give you sort of upgrades to make your attacks a little more potent, or to give you various items. Now, each character character has certain special abilities and items and tokens that'll either help them or they can place on their opponent to kind of hinder them or slow them down.
You say it's asymmetrical. Basically, every character comes with their own deck.
Their own unique deck and their own unique set of dice, their own unique player mat, and their own unique. And on the player mat, there's different combinations of dice that you have a grid basically, and you can see, okay, if I roll for Santa, I had different symbols, like I could have a starburst or a bell or an axe, and basically if you roll like 3 axes and 2 starbursts, that's called a naughty or nice, and that triggers something that you can activate that can do some damage potentially to your opponent. And so like Yahtzee, you have 3 rolls, so you roll once, 5 dice, and you say, okay, I'm going to keep these 3 dice. Maybe I want to roll these 2 because I want to get a certain symbol or number. And then you can roll up to 3 times. There are certain different types of cards. Now, the orange cards can be played in combination with your dice, that allow you to manipulate some dice. You might have a certain token that'll allow you to manipulate some dice as well beyond your 3 base rolls. But usually the card playing happens in sort of the main phase before the attack phase. So you do a main phase that allows you to play any cards that can kind of upgrade things or clear some things that your opponent has hindered you with. So you do all that, then you roll the dice 3 times, inflict the damage on your opponent, and in a more than 2-player game, you pick the opponent, you target the opponent you want to go after, because everyone starts with a certain amount of health. They say in a base 2-player game, you start with 50 hit points. You can manipulate that. We started with 40 just to trim the game a little bit when we played. So that's at your discretion. So you deal your damage.
If we would have went to 50, I would have won.
Oh, yeah, sure. I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
There it is. Yes, Santa was victorious. All is good. Sleep well tonight, children, knowing that Krampus has been defeated. But yeah, so you inflict the damage, but then on everybody's player board, there's a sort of a defense mechanism. So you have like 3 or 4 dice that you roll, and depending on the character and other dice thrown versions, something you pointed out, Matt, it's a defending roll, but in this particular version, you can do nothing with those dice to actually ward off the damage. They just give you some sort of other ability that'll help you ongoing. With other characters in the dice thrown universe, I've seen some of the defending roll actually able to stop a portion or potentially all of the damage being inflicted. Right. And so back and forth you go. It's, you're chucking the dice, you're using the cards to the best of your advantage, as well as your asymmetrical powers to try and maximize the blow to the opponent. They're trying to ward off as best to their ability with their cards or special abilities, and then back and forth we go. And maybe we can talk about what's specific to these characters, because maybe some listening have played Dice Throne, but they haven't explored the Santa versus Krampus version. We can talk about what the unique abilities are. So maybe you can talk about from the Krampus perspective. You played Krampus. You had some interesting cards at your disposal and sort of minions, so to speak.
Yeah, so Krampus had a side deck. So it had its actual
main deck
that you're drawing from all the time. But then there was this other side deck that was called Rejects. Yeah. And basically they were just like demonic toys. So there was like a Dracula.
More on that shortly.
Yeah, that comes up in the movie as well. So there was like a vampire doll. There was like a teddy bear with like razor sharp teeth. There was a scary Jack in the Box, etc. And they were called Rejects. And then based on what I rolled or some of the cards that I played, I was able to draw one of those cards off the top of the deck. And that kind of extended my player board and gave me, I would immediately put it into play. And then that gave me an ability that I could trigger at some point during my turn. Sometimes I could add damage to one of my rolls. Sometimes I could block damage or do some different things. So it was neat to kind of have a little bit of a wild card thing happening over on the side. And then like in terms of the player board, basically there's, I want to say, 10-ish different combinations of dice that would trigger different things.
Right.
So that part of it I think is fairly standard. It lets you draw one of those rejects, for example, as well as do 8 damage. If I had a small straight. If I had a large straight, I could draw one of those, plus I would do more damage, and I would get like a token of some kind. So there was all these different types of things. If I got 3 twigs, then I could do 5 damage. If I got 4 twigs, I could do 8 damage. And if I got all 5 twigs, I could do maybe 10 damage or whatever the case. So those are the types of things that you're doing based on what you roll. And there's always a god roll. In this case, it was called discomfort and pain. And if I rolled all 6s or all horns, then I could do this like huge thing that you have in front of you, Jason. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, so for Krampus, discomfort and pain, so you've got the symbol with the horns, and that's basically very tough to do. And sometimes that's interesting. I've seen games in Dice Throne where that's kind of like, to use football language, your Hail Mary. Right. Like you got like no health left, like if somebody else gets another crack at you, you're done. You're like, I just got to go all in. I got to go for this because I won't have another turn, so I got to get my Yahtzee, right? Like playing Yahtzee when you need that 50 points to win the game, you just got to go for it. So it's cool that that's factored in. It's rare, but when it happens, it makes for a good story. I've seen that where someone looks like they're dead to rights, and all of a sudden they just get that crap luck and just roll the Yahtzee. So each character has that. So yeah, those reject cards were interesting. You've got like Dottie and Bitey and the cool little artwork on the cards. The names are funny and the abilities, and those are pretty potent. I was able to kind of keep them at bay in our game, but I could see how if you kind of stack a few of those strategically, they could definitely do some damage. So that was sort of the Krampus side, which seemed like an interesting character to play. And of course, it's interesting Santa, because you think of Santa kind of meek and mild. So some of the effects in Santa were quite interesting. So on the Santa side and thing, like my devastating ability is called, wait for it, comfort and joy. Yeah, my Yahtzee is comfort and joy. And I've got other things like naughty or nice was one of my abilities, where if I rolled 2 axes, 2 bells, and a star, then after I target my opponent, well, in this case you were the only opponent, 2-player game, I would roll 1 die, and if it was a 1 to 4, my opponent is nice. They would get 1 currency, but they would take 10 damage, which is significant. But if they're naughty, they get one of my cheer tokens, bell token, but they get 12 damage. And when you start with 40 or 50, 12 damage is significant. So, and we should say too, some of the cards allow you to sort of upgrade these on your player mat. Like you can kind of go level 2, so it makes the damage even more potent, but they cost a lot. One thing I did was I upgraded my defense, so it allowed me to, in my defensive role, allowed me to retain some of my tokens and stuff. So it's an interesting idea. It really is just Yahtzee. But with the characters and the artwork and the tokens, the asymmetrical aspect of the game, I think the publishing company's done a really good job with this game and just releasing both standalone and cross-compatible versions like they have here with this holiday edition. Sure. So it was a pretty enjoyable experience. Yeah, what did you think of the game? You've played a little bit of Dice Throne before, haven't you, Matt?
Yeah, I played once before. So this was my second game. So I don't have a ton of experience with this game. But I had a good time. I think it's like, if I had to describe it to somebody, I would say it feels like a traditional deck builder, like your Star Realms or...
Sure, that's a good comparison.
That kind of thing. Yeah. Where it's like, I do my stuff, and then based on what I've done... I inflict X amount of damage to you. You take the damage, and then now it's your turn, and you do it. But instead of deck building, it's Yahtzee. And it's like they didn't even try to iterate on the Yahtzee part of it. It's like you roll 3 times, and you can keep as many or as few dice as you want. And from the 4 characters that I've seen played, none of them alter that in any way, shape, or form, which I thought was interesting. So, right. But yeah, it's exactly what you imagine it would be. It's battle Yahtzee, and based on how well you do in your 3 rolls, you can inflict X amount of damage. And obviously, there's some strategies, some tactics involved, but it's really just about outputting as much damage as you can. So I can see the game getting sort of samey. I don't know if it's a thing that has enough depth where you would want to or need to kind of like play with the same character so many times to be like intimately familiar. I don't know if that's
it's not
there's
that
that
deep.
much depth.
There's not that much
in
depth,
the game, which I think is not necessarily a bad thing. There are probably there definitely are games where that's the case, and you want to spend a ton of time with one character or one faction to really learn it and get good with it. Whereas this one, I think, is more loosey-goosey. Oh, this time I'll play Santa. Next, like when I played my first game, I was a gunslinger.
Yeah.
They also have Marvel Dice Throne. So you can play with all the Marvel characters.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some fun to be had with the game in terms of the theme and the characters too.
You've only played this 1v1, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So I like this game with a higher player count better. It adds to the tactics and strategy. So sometimes I get together with friends. My kids and their friends love this. We don't have it, but we have friends that have it. So it's not a game I'm going to go out and rush out to buy. But if I have an opportunity, we'll play it. And so sometimes we play like 3. We'll play 6, but it's not 1v1v1v1. It's 3 versus 3. So you're sitting around the table. You're still taking turns, but you can strategize as a team. You can talk, okay, you go after this person and I'll go after this person. And so there's a bit more strategy, and it makes it more of a social event that way. And then the first person gets eliminated, then it's like, ooh, it's 3 versus 2. So you gotta really be strategic that way. And if you get down to 3 versus 1, well, it's over. So the nice thing is it plays fine as a 1v1, but I love that it's not locked into a 2-player version. It gives you that flexibility to play 3-player, 4, all the way up to 6-player. And if you have a whole bunch of boxes, you can pull out, okay, we want to use these 6 characters today. And you can kind of pick and choose. And I think this is always a challenge with asymmetrical games. You get that 1 or 2 characters that, ooh, they have this ability. It's just so overpowering. So we got to mitigate that, or we got to remove this one off the table for this game,
right.
or give it to the new person. You haven't played this game. Okay, we're going to give you a more powerful or incentive. Yeah. Or you can actually, I've seen this done too, where you can draft, and so basically you wager the number of health points that you want, and you start with lower health because you want to bid health points for a certain character. So you can have fun at house rule stuff like that, which is interesting. But it's not a deep game, but I think this has been popular because it hits a lot of people that don't want a too heavy game, but they want something more than Yahtzee, right? They want to have the feel of that with a little more something more aesthetically pleasing, and with a little bit of tactics and strategy, right?
Yeah, and the nice thing about it being just Battle Yahtzee is that you could bring anybody and just say, like, this is game. Battle Yahtzee.
Yeah.
And then you could just sit down and play.
Absolutely.
It's
very easy to learn.
To pick up.
Yeah, for sure.
So who is this for?
Well, definitely I think this is a gateway game. And I'm not saying if you're a heavy gamer you can't enjoy this game, but people I've seen enjoy this are people relatively new to the hobby, or those that have a familiarity with some of those old school style games like a Yahtzee. And as soon as they hear Yahtzee, they're like, oh, I love Yahtzee. I played as a kid. Well, guess what? This is a similar vibe, but you got a few cards in your hand. You got this beautiful artwork. Each person has a bit of a special ability, and my experience has been, ooh, that's interesting. I want to try this.
It is gorgeous. That's something we haven't talked about.
Production design is top notch.
Amazing, yeah. And Manny Tremblay, the artist, when we were talking about this earlier, I had compared it to Wonderland's War, but same artist.
That's right. I didn't realize that. That's right.
Yeah, and the same artist as Radlands.
Yeah. Or
one of the artists of Radlands, I believe.
So top notch.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Some of the best production design in all those games.
You open the box and there's the character trays are beautiful.
The artwork on the cards is there. The tokens.
There's value.
The fold-out player board. Yeah, it's one of the nicest table presences.
Yeah, but I feel like this is almost, which is weird because it's primarily marketed as a 2-player game,
right?
But it feels like almost a party game. Almost,
and that's my experience too. Like I had fun,
which is why I think when you're talking about it being excellent at 6 players, that's great. Probably the sweet spot.
Yeah, it takes a little longer. You're looking at maybe an hour, but it doesn't feel like it because you're engaged. Everybody's taking their turn, and you're watching what they do, and you're strategizing with your teammates what you're going to do next based on what they do. So there is a little more social interaction with you. 1v1 is fine, but it gets a little mindless sometimes, and there's no player interaction as much. I like games with more player interaction. So
sure.
So ultimately, I mean, you only had a small sample size of plays, but where does this land? Would this be something you would add to your collection, Matt? What's your sort of score or experience with this game? So
I looked at it a few times, and like based on the price point, like you can buy one of these boxes, like I said, for like 25 Canadian. Like 20-ish US, I think.
Yep.
For a 2-player. So there's a few times where I looked at it and I thought,
Especially with kids your age.
I could play with my 7-year-old. I could play this with Charlie.
Yeah.
And we'd probably have a good time. But outside of that, I don't think, for me, I don't think I would go there.
Yeah.
It just, like I said, it feels like, Star Realms, but with Yahtzee instead of the deck building. And I think that, for me, unless when you're talking about the multiplayer version and higher player counts, that sounds like it could be fun, and I would be totally down to try that. When I'm like, in party game mode, and I'm like, I just want to like chuck some dice and have some fun.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're looking for, this is there, and you could definitely do that. It's not necessarily my go-to. I like a game with a little bit less randomness, and
sure.
When I see dice in a game, it immediately,
Less a Sagrada.
I immediately have to take a moment to see.
Yeah, is this going to be that luck element, right? Is this just a dice chucker? Yeah, no, and I'm the same way. I think you mentioned you have a 7-year-old. If you've got like a 7 to 12-year-old in the household, this is going to be a good one. This is great for like your kid wants to have friends over and you want to pull out a game to play, or birthday party game or whatever. This is perfect, but it's not something I'm going to really run to with my adult gaming group too often. That being said, I like it. I like my experience, but it's not something I would rush out to buy. But if you're intrigued by what you heard and you're not familiar with Dice Throne, or maybe you're a Dice Throne collector and the Santa Krampus one has slipped through, I will say this. If you're a collector of Dice Throne and you enjoy it, this would be a good addition to your collection.
For sure.
Yeah, especially this time of the year. Yeah. Yeah.
Pull it out once a year.
Yeah,
get those characters out.
There's very few. We were struggling to find a holiday game for this episode. We're like, what are we going to pull from? And we have a mutual friend that happened to have this one, so we grabbed it and had to go at it. And
originally, I wanted to do Santa's Workshop, and you can't get it anywhere.
No,
so maybe that'll be the goal for next year. Yeah, to find that game.
Sure, you pick the game, I'll pick the movie next year. Well, before we get to movie, why don't we give this one a rating? What would you give this as a score rating, Matt?
I have this as a 6.5, or like maybe just shy of 7.
Sure.
If somebody said like, let's play this game, I'm totally down. Like, yeah, for sure, let's play. I'll have a good time. It's never a game that I would recommend, or not that I wouldn't recommend, but it's never a game that I would bring or buy or be like, let's play this. Yeah. I think there are plenty of 2-player. I mentioned Radlands.
Yeah.
I would always prefer to play Radlands before I would play this game.
Sure.
We reviewed For Glory with Gladiator 2 not too long ago. That's another like 2-player game that I would always go to.
A little chunkier than this one. Yeah.
So there's just so many more games that would give you the similar vibes, but with a little bit less chance involved, that would make it feel like the player who played the best and made the best decision wins. That's kind of my alleyway for
that's like
especially
me.
for a 2-player game.
For what this is, I like it. As someone who has and continues to, I'll play lots of Yahtzee online sometimes just for fun, just as a mind number for 15 minutes after a long day before bed. So like, again, if someone shows up with this, I'll play it. Am I going to buy it in my collection? No, but something I'd put maybe in our church cafe, because when children or young adults come there, they want to look for something.
It has a place.
There. It has a place
in the hobby, 100%.
For sure. So I'm with you. Like I'd probably I'll give it a 7. It barely gets to a 7 to me. So it's a fine game, and the production design is phenomenal. But it's more style over substance. If you're looking for something with a little more depth, there are other places to
When
look.
I saw it come out of the box, and I'm like, this is so gorgeous. I wanted to like it more than I did. Yeah.
That was my experience as well. So I'm kind of mixed on it, but hey, it might be for you. That's the Santa versus Krampus holiday version of Dice Throne.
All right, so let's go from a mediocre Santa-themed, Krampus-themed thing, piece of entertainment, to a super fun, wild ride.
Hold on, I need something harder than water to drink for this conversation. Yeah.
So we're talking about Krampus, the 20. As you mentioned, when I recommended Krampus, you went looking for it, and there was like tons of.
There are
Krampus
like
movies.
9 different Krampus movies.
So we're talking about the 2015 Krampus movie starring Toni Collette, Adam Scott, Also with MJ Anthony and David Kochner.
David Kochner.
Kochner. Yeah. Written by Michael Dougherty, Zach Shields, and Tony Casey, and directed by Michael Dougherty. So this is about a dysfunctional family that clashes over the holidays. Young Max is disillusioned and turns his back on Christmas. Little does he know, his lack of festive spirit has unleashed the wrath of Krampus, a demonic force of ancient evil intent on punishing non-believers. Yeah, so that is the synopsis of Krampus. Where do you want to start with this? I know you are were not a fan at all.
No, this is the worst movie I've seen all year.
That bad?
This makes Megalopolis look like the Godfather.
No, it's not worse than Megalopolis.
By far.
Wow.
By far. This, I've only given one movie 1 star.
My
and this
mind is
it.
blown.
This is it. So, this is like a big old lump of coal in my Christmas stocking, Matt. So thank you very much. But hey, I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it was only 98 minutes of my life I can't get back. It wasn't like 3 hours or something.
Right. Okay, so before we get into too much about our thoughts on the movie, just plot-wise, basically young Max,
that should take 30 seconds.
He's 10 years old, and his parents, played by Adam Scott and Toni Collette, have
why Tony, why are you in this movie? You're better than this.
She was perfect. I thought the casting was excellent in this. Everybody just played their role perfectly. The kind of old creepy German grandma was just like chef's kiss. What's her name? Omi?
Or as I call her, Omi-Wan Kenomi? Omi-Wan? Anyway, we'll get to that scene, but that was kind of reminded me of the Obi-Wan standoff scene, but yeah.
So basically, a bunch of family comes over, all of Max's cousins are there, and there's a bunch of like, I guess one of the in-laws, the family is kind of like this gruff, I don't want to use the word hillbilly, but they're very much, they feel like a redneck, right-wing, gun-toting, yeehaw, Hummer-driving family. And so they show up, and they're making fun of Max at the dinner table. And they're making
Max has written a letter to Santa.
They're making fun of the fact that Max still believes in Santa. I mean, he's only 10 years old, I think, in the movie. Which I will say that, and this is always a weird thing with movies, kids always present older than what their age is.
Typically, yeah.
In reality.
Yep.
And then because their words are written for them by adults, it always seems like their language and the way they speak and whatnot is always way more mature.
Oh, especially here, because Grandma speaks German and only the 10-year-old understands it and translates for the rest of the family.
Yeah, and but anyway, so he gets kind of beat up, and they get in this big fight, and he runs upstairs and he rips up his letter to Santa and he throws it out the window, and that's what triggers Krampus to come and haunt and demonize the family and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's this huge snowstorm and the power goes out, and Max's older sister runs off to go see her boyfriend who lives a couple blocks over. And then she takes way too long to come back, and they get worried about her. And so Adam Scott and his brother-in-law, who's the actor? Is that
David Koechner?
Yeah,
okay. He's a recognizable character actor.
Yeah, so he's basically the cowboy hat wearing.
He's the gun-toting uncle there, Hummer driving. Yeah.
Right, but in Anchorman, he's the one that
he's an Anchorman.
Wearing the cowboy hat, and that guy, right? And he's one of those characters
reprising that role here, kind of, sort of.
Pretty much, yeah, you're right. So anyways, they go out with guns and their Hummers, and they go to try to find the girl, and horror ensues. There's
bad CGI ensues.
Did you find the Krampus to be bad CGI? I thought it looked wicked.
No, it was bad.
You haven't watched enough horror movies.
I've seen plenty.
You're just not in the zone for. What I said was, I think in our text conversation, is you don't have the right lenses on to watch this movie, because ultimately this is a campy, silly, don't take it too seriously horror movie with some silly, fun elements. And like, for me, when it comes to horror movies, so when it comes to general movies and drama films and sci-fi and everything else, the most important thing is story, believability, good dialogue, good performances. Like, primarily the script is number one, and the story is number one. When it comes to horror films, story's still important. All those other elements are still important, but the number one thing is, do the horror elements work? Right? And in this movie, we get, I thought, a really cool, beastly looking Krampus.
Who's on screen about as much as this shark over our shoulders here in Jaws. Like, I'm intrigued by this Krampus character, but give me more Krampus. Like, we spend more time with Krampus's elves and these demonic toys than we actually do with Krampus. I guess that's why they need to make 8 or 9 spin-off movies, which I will never watch. But no, let's talk about camp. So there's good camp and there's just bad camp. That's crap. Like, good camp, like a movie like horror movie. Let's talk horror movies. So Megan, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I see those as like campy, but in a good way. There's still strong performances, a good script there.
Silly though.
But this is neither like silly nor...
This is a borderline B movie.
This is a PG rated movie that was peddled as a black comedy horror. And which is, I found to be neither comical nor scary. Like, I wasn't scared at many scenes in this, nor did I laugh at anything in this. I mean, I was cringing by the end and giggling because of just where it devolved to. But for me, this is just bad camp. This is a messy script. Like, I feel like this movie was written maybe like one day. And the cast, I'll give you credit, the cast is good. Like, you got an A-list cast, but in a movie that's way beneath them.
Yeah, I didn't see it that way, and I thought the camp was fun. I felt like it was in the vein of, at least for sure when the horror elements started, it felt like in the same lane as like an Army of Darkness, where you've got like fighting skeletons and like this like wacky physical humor. So there was elements of that.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about the first time that we, not when we first see Krampus, but the first time that we see his minions or his rejects. So we get, my favorite thing of the whole movie is this like group of evil gingerbread men, which I thought were like laugh out loud hilarious. I had so much fun with them, and those things immediately bumped this movie up to a different level for me. I was just like laughing out loud the first time we see them.
Total opposite experience. That's when it went from 2 stars to 1 star for me. We gingerbread man, really?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, hey, if it's not for you, it's not for you. But I had a ton of fun with them. And like the first time we see them, we get hints of them, and we hear them, and we get glimpses of them. But the first time they're like prominent, there's like 3 of them using a nail gun and shooting at the brother-in-law character.
Yeah, the hillbilly.
Yeah, he's using like a...
He's trying to stop it with a piece of wood or something, or cutting board or whatever it is.
Charcuterie board or something like
board.
that.
Yeah.
And like the nails are coming at him, and he's trying to defend himself, and then he lights them on fire. And then there's this big slow motion sequence of like the final gingerbread man jumping in the air, holding a whittled down like candy cane,
ready to stab him.
When he's gonna stab him, and then like and then the dog jumps in and like,
spoiler alert,
and
the dog just eats him. Yeah.
So like,
I was pretty much tapped out by then.
Fun. Like, I had a blast.
Yeah.
If you're already tapped out by then, like, that's just when the fun's starting.
You know what? This movie was good for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. The best part of this movie was
the opening sequence.
The opening, Universal comes on screen. I'm like, oh, this is a Universal with this cool ice logo. I'm like, that's cool. And then it's followed by Legendary. The Legendary logo comes up. I'm like, oh, some of my favorite movies are Legendary. I'm in. This is great. And then it starts with this cool kind of maybe longer than it needed to be, but cool little montage. It's
Yeah.
beginning to look a lot like Christmas, and we've seen the chaos of Black Friday. And for some strange reason, there's a school play, Christmas play happening on Black Friday at the mall a month before Christmas, but whatever. I guess they got to do it before December 5th because that's Krampus night historically. And so I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden it turns into trying to be like National Lampoon Christmas Vacation / Home Alone with everybody around the table arguing and bickering. And then it just went off the rails for me after that. Like, I was hooked for about 3 minutes, and then I was trying to give it a chance, and then Gingerbread Man show up, and I was just like, oh man, this is just not for me. But hey, you know, I'm not the only one. So let me have my moment here. So
Sure.
I was rating this movie 1 star. Sorry, Matt. I thought, you know, is there anybody else who rated this movie 1 star? And there were literally hundreds of reviews, 1-star reviews within the last week. So I just pulled a few. These are just a couple of my favorites from the last 48 hours. This is from, I'll give them credit. This is Chris Moffat. This is all on Letterboxd. You can go to letterboxd.com, place where you can log movies. Chris Moffat says, this movie is so bad that I wish Krampus came to visit me last year so that I didn't need to watch the film this year. User by the name of Regulus says, this is what I imagine a ketamine trip feels like, and not in a good way. Kai331 says the 1 star is for Toni Collette. I'll agree. She was the best part of this movie. Wanted a little more Toni. She has a knack for horror movies with dysfunctional families, if you've seen Hereditary.
Yeah.
Kayla says, if you told me this movie was written in 1 day, I'd believe you. Yes, Kayla, I would believe that too. Nikki Saw says, I fell asleep. A true Christmas miracle. Mango Fandango 98 says, every person and every decision made in this movie made me want to scream at my TV. And Austin, I think, just sums it up in 2 words very succinctly: generationally bad. Generationally bad. But then Matt Cousineau says, an underrated Christmas masterpiece, 4 stars. There's that M word, Matt. And I don't mind you like this movie, but don't use the M word for this movie.
And like, it's so funny because we were texting about this movie last night, and then you basically say like, it's not a masterpiece, and then my response was like, who called it a masterpiece?
I'm like, in 2021 you did. Apparently you watch it every year religiously.
I do watch it every year since I discovered it because I think it's so much fun. And the creatures for me is like the main thing.
Yeah.
There's a bear, just like in the Dice Thrones game. There's a bear with razor sharp teeth.
Yep.
There's a scary Jack in the Box.
The owl was pretty cool.
Clown. There's a cool
The creepy
owl.
clown was ridiculous. It was just some guy under a sheet. Like, it was so B-movie-ish.
Yeah. But it's so
But
silly.
this is
that
Universal
it's fun.
Legendary.
But who
Why
cares
are you
who it's
backing this?
from? Who cares who it's from? It's fun. I just had a blast with the creatures, and I thought the character design of the Krampus itself is so cool. It's like this weird hunchback looking.
The curved horns.
The huge curved horns on the head with like a creepy little Santa face and hoofs, like goat bottom half kind of thing on 2 feet. And it has like these chains that it carries
Chains
around.
and bells,
and like, I think the character design on Krampus was so cool. And yeah, when I use the word masterpiece, I'm sure I meant it as an exaggeration. Like, what a blast, And yeah, that word is probably not the correct.
All right, thank you. I had to call you out on that one.
No,
right?
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But
Have you seen any of the other Krampus movies other than this
No.
one? Okay.
No,
All right. Because literally there's like 8 other ones for you to enjoy, Matt.
But like, this one is rated fairly well. It's a 2.9 on Letterboxd, and like, as soon as you hit that 3, you're looking at
you're looking at an average
fairly
movie.
good movies. And yeah, but for a movie that I know is a niche movie in terms of like,
Yeah.
it's kind of borderlines on a B campy, silly horror movie. 2.9 is sort of right where my favorites of this genre sit.
It's where the underrated masterpieces sit, right?
Where the 3s, the 3.2s, 3.3s on Letterboxd anyways, that's where those types of movies usually live.
Yeah, I was surprised it was that high. It must be 12-year-olds rating this.
Well,
but let's go back to the plot. Like some of even the messaging in this film, like there's a line that's repeated, like a shepherd takes care of his flock. And the only way to do that is to pack a gun in your back of your Hummer at Christmas. Like, it's unimaginative. Like, it's all like, go get the gun. Like, there wasn't even any creative uses of other objects. It was always gun, boom, you shoot, I'll shoot, grandma shoot, you shoot. Like, it was just like, oh, really? Back to the guns again? Like, it could have been a little more creative with different tools or weapons or things. I want a little more creativity at least, right? I know it's a PG-13 movie and there's not going to be overly gory, but it seemed really one note and repetitive with
that's a fair criticism. And again, like a huge portion of why I love this movie is the camp, the creature design, the horror design, and those scenes. I felt like those scenes were super fun and really well executed, and that's what 90% of this type of movie hangs on, the execution of those things. So yeah, I'm not going to fight with you to say that the script was excellent. It was not.
Yeah, I'm not expecting this to be an original screenplay nominee for the year, but like there was one scene where they walk into the boyfriend of the daughter's home, and it's very cold, icy, and they see a knife through the gingerbread man on the refrigerator. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Maybe we'll have a knife scene later on. Nope. Guns, and more guns, right? It's like,
even when they don't use a gun, it's a nail gun, and it's
right. Yeah. So it's like, and what are we like? This is a PG movie, so children will be watching this. Like, the whole point is, if you are honest in how you're feeling depressed or angry, you can't show those emotions at Christmas because you're going to be punished for that, and your family's going to the meta narrative is kind of what are the messaging we're giving here to potential children who are watching this, right?
At first, I was like,
you can't be real and honest and vulnerable with your feelings, or Krampus is going to get you and throw you in a pit of hell. Not you, but your family.
Right? Yeah. I'm not going to argue with you on the script. I will say on the gun thing, when we see that it's the brother-in-law character, the yeehaw, like cowboy hat wearing, Hummer driving guy that has the guns and brings the guns and blah, blah, blah. Like, the movie is putting that character in a negative lens, right? We're almost making fun of how much this guy
for sure
likes guns and likes his power. For me, it's like he's just trying to hide his insecurities as a man. That's typically where those types of things come from in the first place. But you're right. Like, even the Adam Scott character, who's more seen as like the level-headed family man, at one point repeats that line.
It's almost like the guy that was caricatured was right, and we're learning from him. Like, he's instilling this knowledge and wisdom, right? Exactly. It was like, wait a minute.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to argue with you that the messaging is great, or that it's primarily like, I didn't even, to be honest, I didn't even think about the plot or most of that.
Yeah, like there's an off-color joke, like an anti-Semitic joke at the dinner table too. I was like, ew, that's a little off-color, right? Like,
for sure,
stuff like that. It's kind of, for a PG movie, right? If you want to be PG, you can't have it both ways, right? Either clean that up or
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the reason that I love this movie is for the horror elements, and I think it nails that. And
pun intended, nails it.
Yeah. I just had so much fun, especially with those gingerbread men. That scene had me, like, the first time I saw it, laughing out loud and just having so much fun with it. And yeah, I don't, when I'm looking at this type of movie, I don't necessarily, I guess it's that I don't expect a great story or a great plot or great characters, because if it did, it would be Hereditary, and it would be this elevated horror.
Sure, that's a different movie.
Masterpiece. This is a different movie altogether, and it would almost wouldn't even fit if it was like this extremely well written film. It wouldn't even fit with the like demonic gingerbread men. Like, let's be honest. Not to say that it can't have a great script or good characters. I'm just saying that I didn't pay attention to that stuff very much. It was really all about like, I can't wait to see the next horror element. And the teasing out of the gingerbread men when they like came and kidnapped the when they came and kidnapped the kid through the chimney with the chains and all that. Like, that is a fun scene. And then, you know, you get more and more and more until Krampus shows up with all of his minions.
His
And
elves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the grandmother, we haven't talked about the grandmother character, but
Really
there's this
cool
one
character.
point where she was an interesting character. There's one point though where she's recounting her childhood, and it goes to this weird, like, Coraline kind of animation. That was kind of tonally weird too. I was like, wait, what are we doing here? Big exposition dump in the middle of the movie. I'm like, oh, here we go.
She was explaining to the
rest of the family,
the Western audience, who the heck Krampus is, because we didn't know
the lore, the history, and she has some personal history with her childhood, her family, and encounter with Krampus, which we won't spoil because you may want to watch this movie.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, if you enjoy the campy, fun craziness of like Army of Darkness,
then watch Army of Darkness again.
Sure, but it's Christmas. Like, I want a Christmas one, you know, and I have one now. Anyways, that's my general thoughts on it. It's not a great script. It's not this like masterpiece. I know I use that word, but it was just like an exaggeration of like, like.
I almost fell off my chair when I read your review. I'm like, 4 stars, masterpiece. What?
Well, if it was an actual, if I used the word masterpiece as a real, it would be 5 stars, right? And yeah,
maybe next year it will be, Matt. You never know.
We'll
Hey, maybe once you get to watch it with your son, maybe he'll love it too. He's probably a few years away yet from this one. Yeah,
he's a few years away.
Yeah.
He's going to wait till he's at least 10 or 12 or
yeah.
something like that. But anyways, I had a ton of fun with this thing. I thought the characters were fun. I thought the casting was great. I thought the execution of all the horror elements and the way that the horror scenes were directed were tense and fun, and I had a blast with that side of this film, and that's all I'm looking for in this lane of movies.
Yeah, I guess if I watch a horror movie, I want to I don't need to be grossed out with gore, but I'd like a good jump scare too, and I didn't get any of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure there was much in terms of jump scares.
I was kind of hoping for 1 or 2 of those at least.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I preferred Heretic.
Me too. Yeah, me too. But it's like, you know.
But hey, it's a Christmas
and I have this
movie,
rated
right?
as a 4. It's like, if you compare it to a party game, like you can rate a party game a 9 or a 10 because you're rating it as a party game, in my opinion, right?
Sure.
That's kind of where this is.
But it's still got to be an enjoyable party game for you, right? You can't.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm not saying you need to enjoy this.
Right.
I'm explaining why I had a
you
a
do
lot of
you,
fun with
man.
it. Yeah.
This is 98 minutes I couldn't get back, and I will never watch this movie again. Nor the other 8 spin-off movies.
Well, they're not related to this. This is a standalone movie. It's not a spin-off.
It's not? Oh, I
No.
thought. Well, they all have Krampus in the title.
Yeah.
They're not the same director per se, but
yeah,
they all have the titular character Krampus.
of course, yeah. Yeah, so that's Krampus. Before we wrap things up,
I got a brain Krampus now.
Before we wrap things up, I had a quick little game that I want to play, and then we'll send you guys off to enjoy the rest of your holidays. But I call this game Lost in Translation.
Good movie. That's a great movie.
It is a good movie. Overrated.
That's an actual
but a good
4-star movie.
But a good movie. So I will... what I did was I asked ChatGPT to poorly explain the plot of a handful of movies. And you're going to have to guess what movie we're talking about.
Oh, okay. This sounds like a lot more fun than the movie discussion. Let's do this.
Okay, so
good palate
what
cleanse.
movie is this? A family business struggles with HR issues, generational shifts, and some really aggressive competitors in the import-export industry. When the youngest member of the family reluctantly takes on more responsibilities. What movie is that?
I think it might be one that was already mentioned. It sounds like The Godfather.
It is The Godfather.
Yeah, okay.
Well done. Well done.
Nice.
Okay. A child takes extreme measures to avoid uninvited guests while his family forgets basic head count procedures.
So, is that a Home Alone?
Home Alone?
Yeah,
You
okay. I
got
just
it.
watched that, so yeah, I got that on the brain.
Okay.
Another actual 4-star movie.
Yeah. That's another movie that in its lane is maybe even a 4.5 or 5-star movie. Like, it is just perfect for what it is.
I was telling you before we started recording, I was thinking of Home Alone watching this movie. What if the Kevin McAllister character was in this house against Krampus? That would have been interesting, right? Setting up the little traps and stuff in the home.
Yeah.
Instead of Joe Pesci, the
really,
Krampus and his elves, right?
Really fun meta casting might have been to have Macaulay Culkin play Krampus.
There you go. That would have been cool.
Okay, a dad...
Or Joe Pesci.
Okay, so a dad goes to great lengths to find a new home after realizing his current one has terrible weather and farming issues.
Oh, Interstellar.
Got it.
Yeah.
You're on fire. Maybe these aren't obscured enough.
Well, I just seen all these movies in the last 3 months, so that helps.
Okay, a small town tourism board's summer plans are ruined by a local resident with a big appetite.
Oh, is it What's Over Our Shoulder? Jaws?
Jaws.
Yes, nice.
Okay.
5-star Stone Cold masterpiece.
100%.
We're on the same page with that one.
Yeah, for sure. A long road trip goes south when the GPS develops a bad attitude and everyone starts questioning their place in the universe.
The GPS starts... What? Repeat that one more time?
A long road trip goes south when the GPS develops a bad attitude and everyone starts questioning their place in the universe.
I'm drawing a blank on this one. I should know this, though.
You know this for sure.
Questioning their place in the universe.
Yeah.
Is this Everything Everywhere All at Once?
What movie do you have people questioning their place in the universe at the end? I'll add that.
At the end.
At the very end, yeah. And
That's
it's
a
a
lot of
long
films.
road trip that goes south when the GPS develops an attitude, a bad attitude.
Oh, 2001?
Got it.
Yeah,
2001:
okay. Yeah.
Space Odyssey.
I'm not going back far enough. Yes. Yeah, that's top 10 all time for me right there.
Okay, so the last one here. A man raised by odd creatures in a faraway place goes to a big city to find his real family, but his attempts to fit in are a bit over the top.
Is this a comedy?
It is.
Is this like Encino Man or something? Or
You're on the right track. Let's see, what hint could I give you? When the person arrives to the big city, they go through the Lincoln Tunnel.
the Lincoln? I'm drawing a blank. What is it? I should know this.
You should know this. Hang on a second.
This makes for great podcasting.
Yeah, we'll look at this. Okay, he travels from point A to point B by passing through the candy cane forest, past the sea of swirling, twirling gumdrops, and then by crossing the Lincoln Tunnel.
Is it animated?
No. Still nothing?
No.
Okay, how about this? Santa!
Oh, Elf. Duh. Yes, I just watched that too.
My hint was going to be it's a Christmas movie. But I think that would've given it away right away. Yeah.
Don't tell me that's a masterpiece, because it's not.
It's another blast
That's an
of a movie.
overrated Christmas movie.
Yeah, it's fun.
3 stars. It's
fun.
watchable.
Yeah, that's fine. 3.5 stars. I'm fine with that. That's probably where I'm at too. But it's fun.
Will Ferrell.
Yeah, I'm
And I love how you started with Godfather and ended with Elf. What's the connection between Godfather and Elf?
it is. Why am I blanking on his name?
James Caan.
James Caan. I was
Caan,
thinking
yes.
Kane. Kane was. I'm like Kane.
James
Maybe because
Caan.
it's Christmas.
Sonny.
I'm thinking Candy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Cool.
is my game called Lost in Translation.
Of course, Elf.
We'll We'll probably
fun.
do games like that.
Yeah, no, that was
that's a
good.
fun one.
That was good.
Cool. So that is Krampus and
That was Krampus. That was something.
Dice Throne.
And Dice Throne, Santa versus Krampus. Cool.
We've done a lot of like movies that we both love and games that we both love.
No, it was good to have some back and forth here,
yeah.
and that's the beauty of this podcast. And I think the Filmcast guys said this recently in one of their podcasts too, right? The beauty of this is often we'll agree on things, but we can agree to disagree agreeably from time to time, and that's fine. And as listeners, you can pick and choose whether you want to play this game or watch this movie. And of course, we want to get your feedback as well. So let us know. Maybe there's a movie game pairing that's flown under the radar that you can bring to our attention. So let us know. How can people get a hold of us and give us some feedback, Matt?
You know what? I just recently created a link tree with all of our links.
Nice.
So if you go to this podcast, however you may be listening, in the show notes, there'll be a link. Click on it. It'll give you our Letterboxd accounts. It'll give you our iTunes, our Spotify, our YouTube, our Instagram, and all that stuff.
Yep.
And you can also email us at dicecameraactionpod@gmail.com
Yep.
with any feedback,
Nice.
pairing recommendations, or if you just want to let us know how Jason is completely wrong about this movie. So other than that,
Don't do it. Don't
thanks
watch
for
it.
listening.
I'm going to save you an hour and a half right now. Just skip this one. You thank me later. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everyone. Thanks for being with us here on Dice Camera Action, and we will see you again in the new year.